to all you parents out there that are coaching, even if it's not golf, to maybe your lacrosse or soccer or whatever the case may be, enjoy being the parent. We got to stop this madness of putting all this pressure on our kids. I would much rather land and take a lesson from you guys or...
Well, you're there to be his dad, not his coach.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to teach him, but I also don't want him to hate me.
Well, let's face it, he ain't gonna listen to you anyway.
I was going to say,
I'm down.
Welcome back to episode 25 of the Loggerhead Golf podcast. This morning we're going to hit on a few key points. First one being, the major news coming out of Live with world ranking, then the difference between a golf coach and an instructor, and then some, how to keep your golf stats. So, obviously, the big news coming into this week was Liv was not awarded the rights to gain world ranking points, which I think we all knew it wouldn't happen based off of all the politics that have been surrounding this topic. So, and then obviously with like Chase Koepka and a few other players being eliminated from Liv, what's that mean for them?
Liv is basically obviously getting blackballed. That's just kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the world ranking system. It's not a organization. It's a select few people that vote and essentially make these decisions. These people they're not professional golfers. They could be retired. They could be CEOs of other companies. It's super weird. You got to ask yourself. Well, we have the USGA, which is a governing body of golf. Right. What is the world ranking?
RNA. I was going to say, what does world ranking even matter, right? But apparently it's important.
So I think ultimately they said the reason why they're not rewarding them world ranking points is because they only play 54 holes. I could be wrong, but they don't get a lot, but I'm pretty sure big, high-powered Division I college golf tournaments get some form of world ranking points. They play 54 holes.
This is true.
So I just, it's a black ball. That's all it comes down to. I mean, any actual golfer or any person that's done anything competitive, it played any type of organized sport would understand that, when you're in this sport, right, it doesn't matter where it's being played, right? It's still competition. You're still competing against the course. You're still competing against other players. So, it's equal competition in my eyes between what the Live players played last week in Saudi compared to Jeddah.
Realistically, it doesn't matter how many holes they play. Everyone in that field is playing the same amount of holes, so the competition itself is equal.
Yeah. So, we'll be interesting to see kind of what transpires from there. They essentially already said they're not going to do anything. Essentially it's move on and continue with their events next year.
Yeah, and then of course after that it won't matter anyway since it's all going to be combined.
Yeah.
If it happens.
Well, I was going to say,
at this point, if
2024, the end of 2024 is a long way away. So, and we saw how fast we went from March of last year, the PGA Tour saying they can't stand Live for all these moral reasons to
they cash the check.
July, hey, we're going to be partners. So a lot can change between now and then.
It's all about the paper.
But how about, so you said there's 8 players that have been relegated?
I think it's 8 or 6, but Chase Koepka obviously being the biggest name, no longer on Live after his performance last week. So
yeah, I didn't even know that. So what, they didn't make enough money to continue on?
They didn't finish high enough in the standings I think it's called retingency, or they're using some weird word. And then obviously Miami's this week. So there's a chance for a few more players after Miami to be eliminated too.
Wow. So, how
many do they take to move on? I haven't read about this. So.
40. Yes,
is Matt Wolf still going to be there next year?
Yeah, he will. I think he's contracted. Yeah. But they have 48 players. 48. And they always have a few guys that if someone's hurt or, they always have a few guys that technically play on the Asian tour that they filter in and out. Mm-hmm. And then, so it's like Andy Ogletree. He's kind of on that short list to where if a spot opens up, he goes into the field, which he's a U.S. amateur champion. So I have a feeling with 8 spots opening up, I'd probably be prepared for a big signing next year.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, there'll be some news for
It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
See how it unfolds.
Yeah, so I guess all these golfers that we're talking about, Live, PGA Tour, they all kind of have something in common. They either have a golf instructor or golf coach.
It may or may not be the same person.
May or may not be the same person. We're going to exclude Wyndham Clark because we all know he doesn't have a coach right now at all. He's riding solo, so it's working for him. But
Yeah. For me, this is a great topic. For the longest time, I was always thought of myself as a golf instructor, but as my career had kind of advanced and I got further down the rabbit hole, I realized that I was no longer an instructor. I was a coach. And to me, what that means is I'm not just teaching someone the golf swing, but I'm guiding them through a whole progression of their career. Most of mine comes from high school to collegiate and some collegiate to professional, but there's times where I'm working on their actual swing and technique, and then there's times where I'm working on the mental part of their game. There's times where we're doing playing lessons, and then there's times where I'm actually just listening and what they're going through in their life and trying to be kind of help navigate their emotions through how that affects them on the golf course. And some people don't even think that way. Like, well, you had a stressful day at work. Well, how's that changing your performance, or stressful day at school? How's it change your performance when you come to me for instruction or to work on something?
How's it change your performance when you go to the golf course to play golf?
Exactly. So I think that's whenever I realized the aha moment was for me, is that, I realized that I was transitioning from being an instructor to a coach. And that's what I like. And
how would, I was going to say, so you think there's a difference?
a huge difference.
Okay.
So you obviously think there's a huge difference between the two. So define the two for us.
I think an instructor,
differences are.
for me, this will be my opinion and my definition.
Of course.
Is that an instructor is someone you go to. I don't want to call it a Band-Aid fix, but it's someone you're seeing about a specific issue that maybe it's a one-off situation. You're in Kiowa, you're going to someone and saying, hey, I've been having issues with my driver. Take a look at this. I'm taking a golf lesson. I think a coach is someone that you have picked that maybe you've had some instruction with, but you've resonated with that person, and that person's helping guide you through multiple different problem areas within your game. And they're overseeing the management. It's almost like a coach is kind of a management company of your golf game.
Yeah.
And then an instructor is kind of a one-off kind of help.
Yeah. So you're kind of thinking of it almost as in, you're seeing the head coach of the football team.
So can the coach teach on your golf swing too then, or no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
A coach can also be an instructor then.
Oh yeah, but I think a coach is a sports psychologist.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's managing the entire game of that person, golf game.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it when we kind of decided what we were going to talk about, and I'm like, what is the difference? And I'd probably say it's kind of a little bit of the same thing. You start I do believe there is a difference when you look at it. I mean, I always say football teams have a head coach, and the head coach definitely coaches everybody. Nick Saban always coaches his defensive backs, but they also do have a defensive backs coach.
Correct.
So it's like, I also think you can, and it opened my eyes that you can have both. I kind of see myself transitioning more into the coach realm, just because as I gain more and more students and reoccurring students and things like that, and it's just not a Band-Aid fix every time. You have to keep up with them. You have to know all their habits when it comes to the game of golf to help progress. Yeah. Well, that's more than just saying, yeah, you're taking the club back inside. You know what I mean? So I kind of see it's more or less, a golf coach is probably going to be a more invested in the development of a player's game than in a swing instructor. Is just kind of going to be a right then and right now kind of guy. And not to say that one or the other is better. It's just more or less like, I think it's a personal thing of what do you define yourself as? I mean, there's a lot of clubs that have great instructional programs that call themselves, like we have director of instructions. We also had head golf coaches, golf coaches. And it's all up to the club of what they want to define it, because especially we're a little different because we're not at a club, but at a club, you're doing so much other stuff than just giving lessons, right? I mean, it could be the junior league or camps, anything like that, which that's just like managing people.
I think touching on, like you said about Nick Saban, what I realized about our own academy is that we each have some similar skill sets, but we all each bring our individual flair. Like Kyle is a great putting instructor. And all three of us have different teaching backgrounds, but we take a student and we do what's best for them by, maybe it's something where we see there's a physical inability to perform a certain task. So then as a coach, I'll be able to navigate that and say, hey, I need you to go see this sports therapist, and they're going to help you with your external hip rotation. And sometimes we can help with that here, but I think having a whole team around you where if I feel like the way that I teach maybe not necessarily will benefit them as much as Caleb or yourself, or maybe they need something specific within Sam Putt Lab I need them to look at, then I'll have Kyle look at it. So I think, again, that coaching aspect is understanding the tools that you have around you and helping navigate that player to what's best for them.
Yeah, so they utilize everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think, Caleb?
I was like, honestly, I think it's just a little bit of semantics.
Yeah.
I think a golf coach and a golf instructor aren't all that different. I would say I probably view myself a little more as an instructor, but at the same time, I also realize that my job is to fit what the student needs or my golfer needs at that time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean if I say, okay, I feel like more of an instructor, I want to focus on the golf swing, doesn't mean I can't. If I see them having problems with their attitude or their outlook in golf, or they just keep saying, I suck at this, I suck at that, I'm going to step in there and try to change that behavior. So then I go in that sports psychologist mode, or I might go into some other thing, right? So I don't feel like I really would say I limit myself to a golf coach or a golf instructor. My job is to do what is best for a student every time I see them. Yeah. So like I say, I'll say it's more of just semantics. Yeah. You're all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, we're going to wear many different hats.
Yeah. And I think it's just, again, adapting to your students' needs. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. But I think it's great. That's why this team's great, because we all have different viewpoints.
I mean, can somebody, kind of not so much golf coach versus instructor, right? Can someone see multiple?
Oh,
sure.
100%.
Yeah. Probably recommend it for most people too.
My own son, I love to teach him, but I also don't want him to hate me.
Well, let's face it, he ain't gonna listen to you anyway.
I was gonna say, I'm dead. I mean, I listen to my dad now. I've never listened to him when he first started teaching me how to play golf.
I don't know what it is.
He knew immediately I needed to go see somebody else.
Yeah, I would much rather land and take a lesson from you guys or someone else other than me, and then when we go play golf, it's fun. I'm there to play a supporting role in his golf journey rather than nitpicking every swing that he makes.
Well, you're there to be his dad, not his coach.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's a good note to all you parents out there that are coaching, even if it's not golf, to maybe your lacrosse or soccer or whatever the case may be. Enjoy being the parent, and we got to stop this madness of putting all this pressure on our kids. I see kids just out there right now. I've got a couple under my golf instruction right now. They can't get out of their own way because they're all the time looking over their shoulder to see what their parents are thinking about that bad shot they just hit, or it's maddening. It's too much pressure. Yeah. Let them have fun. So, but, I think this brings up a good point. So recently we made a big change here, and this will be a Loggerhead exclusive. For the longest time I've been under some certain top 100 teachers, and I always kind of said one day I wanted to have an academy that I could call my own, and so DP Golf Academy is kind of born, but then Loggerhead came about, and in the sense of that, we've developed this phenomenal brand, and what I realized is that I have so many great people around me that can coach and teach that it is a true kind of team effort here. So we have relaunched DP Golf Academy as underneath the Loggerhead brand. It's Loggerhead Golf Academy, and we're excited about what that means for our community and for the future of the facility and the brand. And these guys right here, if you guys haven't had an opportunity to take instruction or seek instruction through us, I'd highly recommend seeing either one of these gentlemen at this table. They're extremely proficient at what they do, and I'm just really excited. So I appreciate each of you guys for helping me develop this brand and continue to service this community.
Yep, for sure. So from a coach's standpoint, what are some of the things you use to track your students or your players and see how they're performing versus or how they're improving or if they're regressing?
Well, before we go into the big animal, the thing that I simplify especially with my high school students, I want them to keep on their scorecard. Of course, I'm going to keep their score. But then I want to know how many fairways in regulation they hit, greens in regulations they hit, and then putts. For me, that's a key indicator. That's a performance indicator for me for that particular student because it's not against the field. It's just their performance.
You need to know some basic, how can you hit a fairway?
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that.
And then that kind of dictates what we're working on. If I see that, they're actually able to scramble pretty good. Their putts are not horrible, but they've hit 2 fairways. Okay, we need to work on that tee ball. What's going on? Or their course management.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not even. They hit a great ball, but their aim is
so they were just too aggressive with their line or their target. Yeah.
So I'll kind of do both. I'll kind of take a look at first the swing itself. If I don't see anything out of left field, then I'll take them to the golf course and see what's going on and work on a little course management. Now, that's kind of the first thing that I do as far as a coach is concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's some key indicators you guys use?
Biggest thing that I kind of start with is, I kind of start small and work my way into it with each individual student. So the first thing I'm telling them to keep track of, it's not so much about the fairways yet or the greens. It depends on their level, of course, but I want to know your club selection. Give me your scorecard and I want to know what you hit off of each tee. I pretty much have played almost every golf course around here, so I can visualize a hole. So I'm going to say, okay, you're shooting 100. I want to see what you're hitting off every tee box first, so I can see the club selection before then it's, okay, how many fairways did we hit? How close are we getting to the hole? I work from the tee box to the green. And then obviously when it comes into, hopefully a lot of my students can get to the point where, they're starting to score really well. Then we start working course management wise, green back. But as far as kind of stats, any type of stuff that I need for information for myself to help my student get better, I'm starting to the tee box to the green. Just because 9 times out of 10, fairways missed are because of poor club selection. Yeah. And that's something the golfer controls.
What about you, Kyle? What do you do for Sam Putt Lab? When you're working with a client to help track how they're improving in their putting?
It depends on the client because I'm kind of that in-between coach sometimes working with these collegiate players where maybe they're from Florida or, God, I've got one kid from Sweden who's over here who's got a full-time coach in Sweden. So what we'll try to do is if they're playing in tournaments is on the bottom, they'll either make notes on their yardage book or it's okay, well, what wedge did you hit in the green? How far did, that leave you? So let's say you've got 25 15-foot putts and you only make 20% of them. That's not very good.
Yep.
So we'll do putts per round, proximity to the hole in the sense of, where are you putting from? Because you can say you 2-putt all day, but if you're 2-putting and your furthest putt away from the hole is only 8 feet, then we've got bigger problems.
Yeah. Also, too, it's if you're, 55 feet away, well, the
2-putt's pretty good.
The 2-putt's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're 100% right.
And understanding what a putt is.
Sure.
Putting from the fairway or putting from the fringe isn't a putt.
Right.
That's a shot. So a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
They think if they use the putter, that counts as a putt. So our biggest thing that I try to do, especially with my higher handicap players, is, unfortunately, a lot of 25 to 30, handicap players are having 45, 40 putts around. So
sorry, go ahead.
what I'll have them do is go 3 rounds, track how many putts they have, and let's say it's 45. Well, their goal for the next 2 weeks is to get that to 40.
Right.
And then after we accomplish 40, then we're going to knock off 2 or 3 more with some homework and some other things. So try to kind of chip at it slowly. That way it's not overwhelming. Because if I say, well, you need to have 27 putts and they're at 44.
They might not be able to get there.
It's like blindsiding them with a truck. You just don't want to do that.
Right. So I was going to ask, are you a big putts per round guy, total putts per round?
I think it helps.
Always try?
Because it helps confidence when you have a putt in your hand and you look forward to going to the green. It's going to change how you hit that shot into the green. Because if you're dreading putting, you're not going to make a
Everything
great
else
second
is
shot.
harder.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been so, when I first started playing competitive golf and I started working with instructors, putting was my weakest part of my game by far. And, it was like, it got to a point where I had to track putts per round, things like that. And then like finally, I will say for me personally, I've given up on that stat because it doesn't tell the complete story. And as we talk about other stats, I'll explain why. But I always looked at it as, well, if I'm missing 9 greens and have 28 putts, well, that's cool that I putted decent, but I also had that few putts because I was chipping every time.
Yeah.
So it's like, or like when we played this weekend and I hit a ton of greens.
How about hole number 1? You have like 70 yards left, but you have a 50-foot putt.
Drano.
In Drano.
50 foot was
No, I was going to say it was about 70.
70.
That's the longest putt you could possibly have.
I was trying to be nice, okay?
Yeah, but
still, it was a great
But
putt.
like this weekend, it's like I didn't putt poorly. I read the greens poorly Sunday, and I probably had maybe close to 36 putts, 35.
A lot of
Yet
putts.
I didn't putt bad. So it's a tough, is there any other like kind of putting stats that you look at, or is it mostly just kind of like really breaking down each putt, like footage?
I like breaking it down because it
Yeah.
exposes weaker areas.
That's what I would.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you have to look at the total side. So like even though I specialize in putting instruction, I have to know what they're also doing to get to the green.
It's like
So it's like, well, if you've got a wedge in your hand between 80 and 120 yards and you can't hit the green, then we've got bigger problems than a putter.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's 100% right because as we, you learn about the percentages of make on tour and you're hitting it to 45, 50 feet, you don't see the percentage make. You see a new stat come up.
Yeah,
What's that
percentage,
stat?
how likely they are to
How
three putt
likely
from
they
that.
are to 3-putt from that.
10% chance or whatever it may be.
Sometimes, I mean, I think outside of 40 feet, it's almost like a 20, 25%. And I'm like, dang, that's
I say it's just
high.
always funny to see that graphic on there.
Yeah, sometimes like when I'm 50 feet and I 3-putt, I beat myself up.
Yeah.
And then I remember it's like, holy cow, like it was almost guaranteed from there.
Well, I think it just goes back to perception versus reality. That's why I think every golfer should, even if it's just basic stats like fairway hit, green hit, putts per round, just track some basic stats that you have some idea of what you're actually doing out there, right? Instead of just saying, oh, I hit the driver all 4, I do this, I do that. Have some kind of way to ground your performance.
So I was going to say then that leads in. So like if someone doesn't keep track of really anything, Caleb, what's your method of tracking their round? Like what would you tell your student?
I think you got to start tracking something.
Yeah.
You got to.
Yeah.
Do you have like a baseline that you essentially give everybody?
Yeah, I'd say start simple. Because like if somebody doesn't track any
Understand.
stats at all, right,
Yeah.
you got to get them started in that. So,
Even if it's just a check mark.
right, right. Just like I say, hit a fairway, yes or no. Hit the green, yes or no, and then how many putts. Something simple. Now, obviously, we might want to get more detailed on that later on down the road, but if they're not tracking any stats at all, you got to start tracking something somewhere.
Yeah. There's a new form of tracking, kind of that's not new, but it's been around for a few years. You mostly see it on PGA Tour. It's called strokes gained. Do any of you guys use that? I'm a big strokes
Well, here's
gained guy,
the
so-
problem with that is that it's hard to it's a benchmark against people of same ability level. So that's really hard to do for some of our amateurs.
Yeah.
And there are things out there. I think it's called
There's like some services you can sign up for. that
Super
will-
Shot or
Select shot.
Select
Select
Shot.
Shot.
Yeah, there's some services that have benchmark indicators, but PJ
Or
Tour
shot scope, sorry.
Yeah,
I was
there
gonna
it
say,
is,
I'm
Shot Scope, that's
sitting
it.
here thinking of the app I have.
But PJ Tour is against other PJ Tour
Is it-
players.
yeah, for that course.
Yeah, for that course. So I think it's tough, but it's something that I need to kind of do more research on and start. I think it's a good performance indicator.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I read Mark Brody's book about it. That kind of is the brains behind it and why it's become popular because there's so much more, and I would say if you're investing in lessons and you're investing of getting better, it's something to take your game to the next level and thinking kind of outside the box so far. Okay, I can't just keep track of putts, fairways, and greens. I got to see, I got to keep track of what club I hit out of the left rough, where I hit it, what the wind was, things like
let's
that.
say the yardage. And
Yardage.
Let's say, first off, before we dive too deep into this,
Yeah.
let's get a quick definition of what strokes gains.
So stroke
statistics
gains
are.
is a way of analyzing a player's performance level when comparing every aspect of their performance with other players within a particular data set.
Or other benchmarks.
Yep.
Right.
It measures the golfer's performance taking into account the hole length, the shot length, the lie type of every shot and putt during a round of golf.
Yeah. I would say a blue collar way to explain it, or a really basic way to explain
Layman's
it.
terms?
Yeah, layman's terms. It's not going to tell you how good or bad a shot was, but it will quantify how good or bad a shot was compared to
The field.
The field.
Yeah.
Or and what I like to use it, and the easiest way for amateurs to use it is I use it based off that shot. So when I have 165 yards, it's not comparing it to 165 yards that day. It's all my 165 yard shots.
Yeah.
Right. So I can start to see really where my weak parts are and where my weak yardages are. And me as an instructor, and the way I play competitive golf is I'm going to play to percentages. So if I'm better from 140 and I stink at 165, do you think I'm trying to hit it to where I have 165 yards out? No.
Better not be.
Sometimes when you heal
Can't
one,
help it.
you can't help it.
If you think it's 17 at Sawgrass and 75% of the field made par, and you're like, crap, I made bogey. Well, 75%.
You lost 3/4 of a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's why when you see now and you're watching golf, you see, scoring average for that hole's, 4.14, right? 4 is a good score. You're
a
gonna
good score.
you're gonna pick
Exactly.
up you're gonna pick up strokes on the field.
Yeah.
And that's just the biggest thing, and that's why they talked about this year. If Scotty Scheffler putted, halfway decent, like if he was a half number 75 on the FedEx Cup, based off his strokes gained stats, he probably would have won 7 or 10 events.
Yeah, based off of his strokes gained approach.
Or tee to
Right.
green.
Yeah, tee to green.
Tee to green. So,
But that's also good for Scheffler. I mean, he knows what he needs to work on this offseason.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty clear for him,
And that's
right?
the thing because, and I'm a firm believer, if your ball is relatively in play, and the closer you get to the hole, you have the better percentage you have making a better score.
Right.
Now, trust me, you can, like I did on that number one where I had, 80 yards and I hit it 25 feet past or 70 feet past the pin. It's not a good shot.
Sometimes you can beat the statistics.
Yep.
I would say on that, using as a magnifying glass, you probably were -1 stroke performance wise on the wedge shot,
Approach, yeah.
and then you gained a stroke on the putt.
Yeah. So, and it all evens out. But, also it kind of takes the pressure off of, as I've started using it, it's taking the pressure off of, how many fairways, how many greens. Because also, too, kind of to your point about putting earlier, if I'm on the fringe and I'm 10 feet to the hole, that's always going to be better than being 20 feet and on the green. So on the stats book, that's a missed green. No, it's not. You're way closer to the hole. You have a better chance of making a better score. I count that as a green. And that's the thing is, and we talked about it's being kind of having your system and sticking to it. Be true to yourself, and also be honest with yourself. Right, that's a big key.
Keeping statistics aren't going to do you any good if they're fake.
True.
Right, because then you have no way to measure how you're performing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times where I see a player's statistics look pretty decent, relative to where we started, but their score's not any better. And then when I go do a playing lesson, well, they're not counting a ball that went out of bounds. They hit, they're laying it out and only playing that as a hazard, basically a lateral hazard. They don't know the rules of golf. They're hurting themselves because they're not giving me a true score.
Yeah.
They're making it better than what it actually really is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you guys do playing lessons, do your students usually play better or worse?
My students play better.
I was going to say,
because I'm coaching them through every shot.
I've had essentially every experience I've had. If we're not solely going out there to work on a certain shot, like we're just playing golf, my students usually always play way better because when I'm there, they're just taking it in. They're not worried about score.
Yeah.
Yep.
And score is something that happens.
But they're
Score is
going
not
through
something
their
you can control.
process.
They're
and
going
playing
through the
golf.
process.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. And,
Yeah. You're not allowing, oh my God, there's water. Oh my God, there's out of bounds.
and I'm not saying I'm giving off some magical aura that, just overcomes somebody.
No.
I mean, trust me, I'm going to play with you and I'm going to hit bad shots. But The biggest thing, it's just more or less like when you take score away from somebody, it's crazy. No matter what level golfer you are, how much like 1, 2, 3, or 4 shots better they're going to be.
I like to call it stinking thinking. You're preventing the stinking thinking from entering the brain. And that could be score or hazards or whatever obstacles that you may have. But that's good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, biggest thing, it's, keep stats, take lessons, and, if you truly want to get better, if you truly want to get better, there's more than just making a perfect golf swing.
Yeah. So at the end, we have to remember this is still a game.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about strokes gained or golf coach or, just questions in general, feel free to shoot us a message or comment below. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.